Good morning, beautiful souls. My name is Yolanda Duperret, and I wanted to share my experience with Shelley. And before I do, I want to introduce myself. I live in beautiful Colorado, as you can see from the background, in a beautiful forest where I get to go for walks with my dogs, which is something that I treasure every single day. What brought me to Shelley? Well, it's been a long life journey. I was firmly in the corporate world, went to school, went to graduate school, started my career in banking, international banking, for about 12 years, and I traveled all over Latin America. And from there, during that time, I was married. I had two beautiful boys. And I divorced. And then after that, I met the love of my life for 15 years. I ended up joining his company, and I was in the financial hot seat for all of those years. It was one of the most trying moments of my professional career. And so I knew that I needed something. I was not on the spiritual path. We all are, aren't we? We just don't know it. But there came a point in time where plant medicine met me, and that was a good thing. That was the start of my awakening. That was about 6 years ago. So I sat in a plant medicine circle and I drank the grandmother ayahuasca, and I had this amazing awakening. I then pursued for 5 years after that, sitting in containers with more medicine. And yet there was something that was missing, something that I just couldn't put my finger on. And what I realized after I met Shelley, and thankfully the stars aligned, so I was firmly on her path. And what I only realize now is that I have always been on the spiritual path looking for more. I just wanted more out of myself, not materially. This has nothing to do with the material world because that's very limiting, as we know. But I wanted more. I just desperately wanted more from myself because I kept bumping up against my own limitations, my limiting beliefs, though I didn't know they were limiting at the time. I just thought there was these externalities that were impacting me and that didn't fully understand or realize that I'm the creator and I created these realities simply to heal. So I could feel it, so I could heal it, so I could evolve. So I knew instinctively that was sort of the guiding light, but I didn't know how to get past my self-limiting beliefs and limitations until I met Shelley. Frankly, I met her and boy, it was such a game changer. Such a game changer for several reasons. Her practice is one of self-healing. Her practice is one of guidance into the traumas and the wounds. So it's also a practice of being really vulnerable, willing to be vulnerable with another person, like deeply vulnerable in terms of the deep-seated wounds that are there, the ego trying to protect itself from awakening, from healing. And so with Shelley, I learned to be vulnerable. I also learned how to heal myself, because this is part of the practice, and having her guide us through the womb Kriyas, through the sacred secretion, And there's also a sisterhood involved. Part of that is so that we could learn what it means to self-heal. And I had not been introduced to that level of commitment, that level of healing before. It doesn't exist, or in my opinion, I've not seen it anywhere. Sure, sitting in circles does, but the limitation is what now, what happens after that? The triggers are the same. I can't get rid of my triggers. The same wounds show up time and time again, even though I've sat in circles many, many times. So this was the next level in my healing practice that I was so desperately desiring. And then she introduced me to cannabis. Oh, I've known cannabis before. And we all know it's very ubiquitous. It's here in Colorado, it's legal. And so we know it very well, but recreationally. And the few times that I imbibed recreationally, I simply wanted to check out. It wasn't a social substance for me. It wasn't a time for me to engage with others. And what I didn't realize until I imbibed sacredly in Shelley's container, I did not realize that cannabis wants to be revered, just like every plant medicine, wants to be revered and wants to be imbibed in sacred ritual. So that was the first thing I learned. Oh, hello, cannabis. Wow. It was amazing and powerful. And that's the only way that I will engage with her, because she is a medicine that wants to take you into your body, where all of your traumas, all of the wounds are waiting. Ancestral, this lifetime, all of them. They're in our body, they're stored in our body, and it's through the body that we have to unravel. So I learned that with cannabis. I learned that in her container, to imbibe sacredly. And then the second aspect of that, in addition to her guiding us through a womb kriya practice, which is basically the practice of getting into our body, and then with her prompts, she'll allow us to go in and feel into the types of wounds that we're trying to unravel. And she knows each and every one of us that are in the sisterhood. She knows us well, so she knows what we're working on. So it's just beautiful synchronicity working with her. It's just beyond. And in addition to that, because that is a weekly practice, in between I have my own self-healing practice, which I do with my sweetheart, my husband. And it's magical, because unraveling wounds is never a one and done. It just never is. That's just spiritual bypassing. You have to engage in a daily practice to really want to unravel and unwind the depths of, and layers upon layers of the wounds. And that was the second thing that I learned from Shelley and her container, are to sort of understand the different and various types of wounds. So having them sort of compartmentalized into different categories was very helpful for my masculine side to understand and know where it was that we were going. So that was like the compass that I needed, the end, sort of like okay, we're going into the mother wound, or we're going into the father wound, or the sister or the brother wound, or the poverty consciousness wound, or the angry feminine. And within it, there's a story. There's a story that wants to be seen, met, healed. There are stored memories. There are current, most recent memories that I'm aware of, and meeting them with intent is a game changer. And if it weren't for that, I simply would be rudderless. I wouldn't know which direction to go. And certainly it would take me a lot longer to unravel the wounds and to be even aware of the wounds and then start the process of unraveling the wounds that I have. So I've been working with Shelley now for a year. And all I can say is that I know I'm on the right path. It's been a magical, wondrous, and yes, tough. Because again, the ego doesn't want to be seen, doesn't want to be poked. It likes sort of the status quo. And I know my spirit is just kept knocking. The universe keeps delivering the messages to me of keep going, you haven't ended, it never ends. Growing up and evolution is why we're here. And that is an ongoing, continuous process. So I also know that my higher self is aware of that. So that also helps me along the path and knowing that I can do this and I can reach the next layer and the next level. And it does require going deep into the depths of your body. This is a paradigm shift. And that was the other revelation. I mean, I had 20 plus years of yoga practice just to help relieve some of the tension and the stress that I was going through, especially running a small business and wearing so many hats and literally standing on the financial precipice just about every single day. It was one of the hardest things I had to face professionally. And yeah, it was like coming home when I realized that the practice is what I needed to go inwards. The yoga practice was helpful. However, it is a mind body follows construct. And this womb kriya practice, or this practice with Shelley, is the paradigm shift is just the opposite, because we go into the feminine realms, into the body. The body takes you and navigates you into these pain portals within your body. And then the mind, the Shiva, follows the body. So it is a total paradigm shift, and it requires an enormous amount of trust. An enormous amount of trust, because we're so used to going from point A to point B, and then from there I'm going to go to the next step. And you always know in advance what you're going to meet and what you're going to feel, because the mind is the one that is guiding. In this case, it's just the opposite. It's the body. And boy, when I imbibe in sacred ceremony, this portal, I can't explain, the portal just opens up to these feminine realms, just magical, mythical, mystical realms. And then the mind will guide me into the mind will follow the body into these corners, into these really dark corners into the body. And all I can say is when I meet a pain portal, I will sit with it. And since one of the byproducts of imbibing cannabis is that your ego is taking a back seat, which helps to sort of go even deeper into the pain. And then when you pop through that pain portal, it's just the most magical pleasure you can ever experience. It's a beautiful thing. And there have been ceremonies where, I've had a Kundalini awakening, and where the only way to describe it is riding the cosmic waves. And I can only express that as just like the most divine and blissful experience. So it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And I know there's more. It doesn't end. And it's allowed me to also take my own power back, which was one of the unravelings that I needed to do and needed to witness for myself, is that how in many ways I had given my power over. Many ways I had no boundaries. I didn't know that until they were crossed, and then boom, there comes the angry feminine, and now I'm breathing fire and not knowing what the hell just happened. So the process of taking my power back, which has been a big process that I've been through this past year, has allowed me to step into my own power, has allowed me to be okay being by myself, with myself, in my own ceremonies, going into these, with the daily practice and going into these dark corners of my psyche and not being fearful of it. And to keep pushing those boundaries, because there simply is more. It's never ending. So that keeps me motivated and going. And as far as the sisterhood goes, it's beautiful because it's a small group of us. And we all share the same wounds. They just show up as different stories. And so when one sister's working on something and shares it with us sisters, and these are very vulnerable shares, so this is a very sacred container, it will invariably trigger something in me or another sister. So we're all healing together. So there's exponential healing in that. So between the womb Kriyas, the sisterhood, and my daily practice, what an amazing combination. And I just can't thank Shelley enough for trailblazing, because she is a trailblazer and an amazing guide. So thank you, Shelley. Love you, sister. I can't wait to see you again in Womb Kriyas. And I welcome you sisters to join. Thank you.